Good morning, everyone. We are at our Munich office now. It's very early and we are about to meet Viktoria Danzer now. She's a partner in our financial services practice and we have the chance to spend the day with her. The first stop will be a little bit south of Munich now, and then later we're going to travel together to Berlin. Good morning, Viktoria. How are you today?
Good, thank you. And you?
Also very good. Thank you so much for having us. It's a beautiful area around here.
Yeah, I hope you had a nice drive, not too long. It's a bit far away from Munich, but
no, it was all right.
It
was all right.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
So come on in and join our chaos in the morning. So I hope the coffee is still hot because I made it at 5:30 this morning. So sometimes it's already cold until I get to drink it.
So you got up very early today.
Yeah, I'm quite a morning person. I've always been. It's these days it's quite an advantage for me, I think, because I very often get some work done before the kids wake up, and then we have a morning together with breakfast, and then when they're in school I get back to work. So this is my usual morning when I'm at home, at least.
And is that also what today was like, or how was your morning so far today?
Yeah, it was exactly like that, actually. So I got up, I did some emails, read some documents. When it's quiet in the morning, it's a good time for me to really think and to work through documents or develop new ideas for projects. And then at some point, usually someone shows up in my office and says, good morning, and now it's time for breakfast. And yeah, now the kids are getting ready and I'm doing my usual thing here in the kitchen.
They're in their lunchboxes.
Yeah, exactly.
And today we have a day where you are traveling. Is your morning routine different on days when you're traveling compared to home office or office days?
Yeah, it depends when I have to leave the house. So of course I still have the early morning flight. Quite often then I even leave before the kids wake up.
Yeah.
But as much as I can, I try to be there until they go to school, and then I leave the house and go on a trip or go to the office or go to a client site. Like today will be the same. So we're going to bring the kids to school and then I'm off to the airport.
I bet sometimes it's also a challenge being a parent and balancing being a parent with your career. How do you manage that?
I think it's a daily adventure. It's a daily survival struggle. I mean, everything is good when nothing extraordinary happens, but on most days, I think something happens. Either kid is sick, or we forgot something for school, or something additional needs to be done, or a client calls earlier and has some urgent question, or, and then that's where then the fun begins, and we try to manage somehow. But usually my husband is here in the mornings as well, so that helps a lot because then we can juggle together. But today he had to leave early, so it's me. So breakfast is ready and off we go to school, I would say.
All right, let's go.
Guten Tag, wir sehen uns morgen wieder. First challenge of the day mastered.
Yes. So how do you manage to stay present with your kids, especially on busy work days like today?
Yeah, I mean, it's much easier now, of course, that they're bigger because we FaceTime and we talk during the day. They call me when something exciting happens. But since I've always been working quite a lot since they were born, we always try to have a very open communication with them to see what is important for them, to make it work for all of us as a family. And I always told them, if you say stop, it's a stop, and if you need me, I will leave everything and I will come. And my colleagues know that happens sometimes, and I'm super grateful that they also understand that and and see that this is what I need to make it all work. So one of the things, for example, that we try is they really like it when I bring them to school. They like it when I'm there in the morning. So whenever it's possible, I fly when they're off to school. Like today, we will be leaving to the airport soon. Now they're off to school, and then they don't mind if I leave after them.
You're a partner in our financial services practice. What are your tasks in your role?
That's a very good question. They're quite diverse. I would say the first task is, of course, being productive for our clients, making sure that we deliver the right solutions for the challenges that they have. So I talk a lot to our clients. I'm a lot with the project teams on site to discuss new ideas. I also believe we do have a role to develop the company as a whole, to be role models for the future generations of partners, hopefully. And of course, there's also the side of, let's say, content work and more long-term development of ideas and topics that Roland Berger wants to push into the market. Artificial intelligence, of course, being one of the most important ones these days.
Mm-hmm. And what did you study?
Nothing that is directly connected to what I do today. And I think that's also the beauty of consulting, that we need diverse backgrounds. I studied politics and philosophy. I did my PhD in ethics. So for a long time when I was working in banking, it seemed to not be really connected. Now, if we look at the role banks play in our economy, in our society, if we think about questions about the future, about how to use artificial intelligence, suddenly it sometimes even makes sense to have a background in ethics. But above all, I think any academic background gives you the ability to structure topics, to think analytically, to bring in new ideas, and I think that's what the most important thing is.
Okay, now I got a few personal questions for you to get to know you a little bit better, or even better. What's one thing on your bucket list that you still would like to accomplish?
Okay, that's a nice one, and even easy to answer because it's something we also talk about quite a lot. I spent my 30th birthday on a trek on Annapurna, which is a 3-day trek. And since then, my husband and I have been wanting to do the Annapurna base camp, but then we had the kids, so now we're basically waiting for them to be old enough to do it together with them and to do the Annapurna base trek in Nepal.
What's your favorite book?
Hopefully always the one that I read. I'm currently reading a very interesting one on Schrödinger's cat, so on quantum physics and the origin of quantum physics. And it's actually quite typical for me that I read sometimes literature, sometimes science, sometimes but the economy, whatever I get my hands on, I will be reading. So currently it's John Griffin and Schrödinger's cat.
What do you do in your free time to relax and recharge?
So most of the time I just make use of where we live now, really in a rural area. So I do hiking tours, sometimes even also small ones for a couple of hours, or go bicycling, or even take a walk, even with my phone, and make a meeting while walking. I do the usual bits of some yoga or Pilates or whatever, but most of it's nature really that recharges me. And
all right, are you ready?
Ready to go.
Perfect. Then off to Berlin or to the airport first. So how's our day going to look like?
Well, it's a busy day. It's actually quite an unusual day because it's not the usual just project work meetings only with one client at one client site. So the first meeting we're having is a client meeting to discuss a potential project topic, but then we're going to meet a project team for lunch. And tonight we have a very special event ahead of us because we are partnering with the House of Finance and Tech in Berlin, and we are also hosting them at our Spielfeld Innovation Hub. And tonight there will be a big event where our global CEO Stefan Scheible will also be present. So it's not a super usual day, but I hope it will be an exciting day. But days like these happen, I would say, approximately one day a week, where I have a mix of different meetings with prospective clients, with existing clients, with project teams.
Do you have a favorite part about today? Something you're most looking forward to? Or can't you say it because you don't want to make anyone sad who's not your favorite part?
I really like the day today for all of its parts, actually, because it would be really cool to continue working with this client. It would be It's going to be really nice in the afternoon, where we're more on the fintech and Berlin scene. But I also always enjoy to see teams, especially when we work a lot remotely these days. So it's always a special occasion to have time to go for lunch with the team.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a really good mix today, actually.
What would you say are the main differences between the work of a partner and, for example, a senior consultant? Would also be a great question later for your team members, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
From
we can
your
discuss that with them.
maybe.
I mean, first of all, you, of course, as a senior consultant, you have more time to focus on one specific topic. So usually you are either in charge of a module in a bigger project, or it could even be a smaller project that you're completely in charge of, but then it's one client, one topic. You will also have other things to do, of course, preparing pitches or helping in studies that fit to your area of interest. But it's much more focused, and in a way also, I think, a bit more planned in the way the days run. As a partner, you usually have several projects, so you have to juggle a little bit between those topics, because then sometimes both have a very intensive week at the same time, so you need to see how to manage that, or even 3 projects. And then you have, of course, acquisitions, and you work on content pieces as well. So it's a bigger variety, I would say.
Any tricks to organize yourself? Like, do you use specific apps or Outlook? What's your preferred tool?
I have sort of a planning for every week, which I go through every morning, and then Fridays as well, and I see what is left and what I need to push over to the next week. So it's really very simple. And I have blocks in my calendar. I try to maintain them every day, really, to go through content and to answer emails and to be available for short notice questions, because I always try to avoid to be the sort of roadblocker for the team when they're waiting for feedback and they can't continue to work. I found that super annoying when I was a consultant, so I try to minimize that for the team. But these are really the main tricks. So really have a very systematic start and end of the week, so that you know what you want to achieve and you know what you have done. And then usually the week starts, and then everything changes and everything is different every day, and then something with the kids happens in the meantime, and then meetings arise that were not planned, and then and then the week begins.
We learned flexibility is a major skill. What other skills do you think are important to be a partner?
I mean, of course, they're the obvious topics. You should know about something, right? I mean, if you want to advise someone who is obviously working in that field, you should also know something. So ideally, you have gained this experience in a consulting career, and of course, we also have a lot of colleagues who come from the respective industries. I myself worked in banking also for many years, or you have an academic background that fits. But that's the simple stuff, let's put it that way. For me, and that's always what I always say to junior colleagues in recruiting, really curiosity is super important. You should be curious. You should really be interested to understand what is the problem of the client, what is the issue in the industry. And then you learn the tools, how to develop solutions. That's something that comes, let's say, in the consulting career, and we have a lot of trainings, obviously, that help you. But if you're not curious to go to the bottom of the issue, I think then there might be other topics where you might be happier, because this is for me really the core. And if I look at my partner colleagues, we're super different, we're super diverse in terms of our background, our working style, our mentality. But I think what binds us together is really this: we really want to understand and support the clients to get better. This is the one call I'm always taking whenever it happens.
That's cool.
Danzer. My son yesterday said he would come with me to work. He would be silent. It's okay. And he could learn something, he then told me. So it's much better than school. I should just tell the teacher he skips school and he listens in meetings. So
what do you tell your children about your job? What do they think you do? How do you explain it to a child?
Yeah, it's funny how you explain and then how children understand, I think. When I was working in banking before, and there I told them about, some people have too much money and some people don't have enough money, and then you can go somewhere and you can borrow and you can give money and so on.
So you're really playing consulting with them.
Yeah. And now it's easier because they're 6 and 8, and it's actually they understand quite well now, because I just tell them I help banks now.
Yeah.
So and that they can grasp. There might be someone who has a problem and then you go and help. Mm-hmm. They don't really understand why it can't be in our place at home.
Yeah.
Why people need help in other places, but that's part of the story.
What did you want to be, Viktoria?
Well, I had two. I think it was always changing. I wanted to be a farmer or funnily enough, Chancellor of Germany, neither of which I would want today.
I'm trying to make the consulting connection.
What advice do you have for young women who want to enter consulting and start their consulting career?
I think there is not some secret recipe. You just need to go and work. Like if you like something, what you're doing, it shouldn't be a problem to try to manage. The more senior we get, the more tasks we have. So you need to be able and actually master the skill of orchestrating all of the tasks that you have. And then also the more senior you become, the more freedom you have in choosing how you spend your day. Maybe not as a senior consultant, but when you get older, you're more senior also with your role.
Lovely to meet your team for lunch. Oksana and Alessandra are really great colleagues. They mentioned that the team consists of 5 nationalities. How do you manage to collaborate when you're in so many different places? Do you meet up on a regular basis, or is it mostly virtually?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, I fully agree. And then you haven't even spoken about the client, who's also international, and we have some other partners also working across different regions. So it's it's an even bigger international scope. We work mostly remotely in this project, but we also try to find regular ways to meet in person. If it's not the whole team, then like we did today with parts of the team, because I believe, and I'm very convinced that we still need the personal interaction, and we actually see it everywhere, be it when you try to establish a relationship with a client, or if you try to really build a team. I mean, as well as remote working functions, it doesn't work everywhere and in every case. And so I think you always need to find a good mix between both.
We learned that it's a very, very long-term project, 1.5 years already, which is, very, very unusual for consulting.
That's true.
And when you formed the team, what did you pay attention to? How was the team staffed? Which expertises were considered, and how did it work?
I think it was in line with how we always do it. You always try to find a good balance between the different qualities that you need in a team. Usually not everyone has a strength in everything, so you might need more analytical skills, or you need more know-how of the industry, or technical skills, or in this project even language skills play an important role. So then you just try to find a good mix, and what we're currently doing is also to see how we can also rotate some of the more junior colleagues, because it's important when you start your consulting career to see several clients and to work in different teams and with different project managers. So at some point you need to then find a way in the longer projects also to change this, and then again you look at who could be the replacement, who has the right quality there.
Viktoria just met a really interesting female fintech founder. We're going to let them exchange some small talk, and then we can join them.
But I'm a fintech managing director, so I've run fintechs in the past, but I've come in later, and I usually need something a little bit bigger to then scale, transform, do whatever with. But my specialty is in open banking and in open finance, so helping companies scale based on their data and based on the foundation and regulation that everyone's data belongs to them, whether it's a company or a consumer. I never wanted to go into finance and fintech, and I don't know how I got here, but I'm loving it. Different skills of understanding product, industry, customer needs, and people. Because with all the technology we do, we are a people business.
We just arrived at the Spielfeld Digital Hub now, and preparations for tonight's event are in full swing. And Viktoria is currently meeting up with our global managing partner, Stefan Scheible, and Nicola, who we met earlier, to discuss preparations for tonight's event. So the initial plan was actually to stay in Berlin tonight, but now we're on the way back to the airport to fly to Munich tonight. So I think things like these also happen very often, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a normal, crazy day in a way. Things always happen. Sometimes meetings change. Sometimes it's also family stuff, but there is always something coming up. I wanted to stay in Berlin tonight, but now I'm going back. Exactly. So I can join the car with two of my favorite colleagues, which is really nice because we were obviously both at the same event just before. And now we're car sharing to the airport.
Yeah, full house here in the taxi. So this was a lot of networking tonight. Do you have any advice on how to build a good network, or just networking advice in general?
Well, also curious to hear the colleagues, but I personally think if you start out with the intention to build a network, it usually doesn't work, because then you think, I need to know this person because he or she might help me, and people feel that. So you need to be someone, I think, who likes to talk to people, who is interested to meet new people, and then things happen and networks start to grow somehow. I don't know how you see it.
What's your opinion?
But I think also like it's important to start at the beginning, like also in your career, because you have so many colleagues or like also clients working with. They're moving with you up in the ranks. So it's like really keep in touch. Use like the Christmas, the Easter topics, like just like to be in touch. If you're in the town, meet up for a coffee or something. Usually the clients are really happy to do so. And so keep the network and grow the network through the ranks also.
Julian, I'm really excited because we can join you through your day in the life of a partner as well soon, right?
Yes.
Did you already choose a day for us?
I still have to figure out the day, but yes, it's gonna be also then maybe not quite as usual one, but also an exciting one.
Really curious to see if it requires as much flexibility as today with Viktoria.
Don't say it was chaotic.
No,
we managed everything.
We managed everything, right? Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yeah, a lot of circumstances from the outside which required our flexibility, but we mastered it, of course. But yeah, really, really excited for your day as well.
Yeah, looking forward also too.
We just dropped off Viktoria at the airport now, and we had a very exciting schedule today with lots of unexpected changes, and we met a lot of interesting people. And this is how a day in the life of a Roland Berger partner looks like.